Thank you so much for joining me today. I would like to speak about the Amazing Randi, Christopher Neudorf. Now, Christopher has been a friend of mine for many, many years, long before I started doing this video. We met in Goth. So we're both associated with the Goth community. And I appreciate Christopher. I appreciate, Christopher, that you watch. Hopefully this will give you what you're after. I would not have done a presentation on Randi had I not been asked to do it. And the reason for that is that we are so ideologically different. I respect Randi. I think he's done great things for the art, great things for magic. I have every respect in the world for him, but as I share some of these things, I think you'll understand where I'm coming from. I think I'll explain it. Randi was born Randall James Hamilton Zwinge, August 7th, 1928 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. He passed away on October 20th, 2020 at the age of 92. He was a stage magician, escapologist, but most notably a skeptic and author. Randi began his career as a magician under the stage name The Amazing Randi, and later chose to devote most of his time to investigating the paranormal, occult, and supernatural claims. He took up magic after seeing Harry Blackstone Sr. So many people were influenced. Me indirectly. My dad was influenced by Harry Blackstone Sr. Randi was influenced. What a brilliant performer Harry Blackstone was. He read magic books when he spent 13 months in a body cast following a bicycle accident. At 17, he dropped out of high school to perform as a conjurer in a carnival roadshow. During Alice Cooper's 1973 to 1974 tour, Randi performed on stage both as a mad dentist and as Cooper's executioner. And by the way, I was an Alice Cooper fan in those days, so I went to see that show. I actually saw Randi perform. I actually saw Alice Cooper do those things. Alice Cooper, I think, was one of the first performers, first musicians, to present a theatrical experience when you went to his concert. To see Alice Cooper live was to have a theatrical experience. And Randi was a part of creating that. So I appreciate that, Randi. In 1987, Randi became a naturalized citizen of the United States. Welcome to America, Randi. When asked if he had psychic powers, he said, "I'm a trickster, I'm a cheat, I'm a charlatan. That's what I do for a living. Everything I've done here was by trickery." I respect that. I'm one of the few mentalists who says, I'm a magician. That's what I'm doing. That's what mentalism is. I'm one of the few that does that. But I respect that. Randi authored 10 books. 10 books. I'm going to put the list down below so you can take a look at them. 1975, The Truth About Uri Geller. 1976, Houdini, His Life and Art. 1982, Flim Flam. 1982, Test Your ESP Potential. 1987, The Faith Healers. 1989, Randi's book, The Magic World of Amazing Randi. 1990, The Mask of Nostradamus. 1991, James Randi, Psychic Investigator. 1992, Conjuring. We'll talk about that in a moment. And finally, 1995, An Encyclopedia of Claims, Frauds, and Hoaxes of the Occult and Supernatural. Randi was a regular contributor to the Skeptic magazine and Skeptical Inquirer magazine. I used to read both of those magazines. There's a parallel, I think, between magic and skepticism. The skeptic believes there's a magic trick behind everything. The skeptic believes that that magic trick should be exposed and that there's nothing existing beyond it. Everything is a fraud. There's no such thing as an alien. There's no such thing as UFO encounters. There's no such thing as Bigfoot. There's no such thing as ESP. There's no such thing as religion. It's all a lie, according to his skeptic. And the job of the skeptic is to expose it as a lie. Now, if you're familiar with scientific method, you probably know that that type of reasoning is not scientific. You're going into an investigation with what they call an a priori assumption. You've already made the assumption that there's nothing there. So your job is not to provide proof or evidence one way or the other. Your job is to expose it. That's what a skeptic does. And after a couple of years of reading the Skeptical Inquirer and encountering articles about things that I knew to be true that they said was false, I got a little tired of it and just stopped reading it. But this was his life. This was Randi's life. He was a skeptic. He was really, in many respects, the father of modern skepticism. His battle with Uri Geller is legendary. And I'm not going to defend Uri Geller. I'm not here to defend. I don't know. I would claim agnosticism when it comes to Uri Geller. He tried to debunk and humiliate Geller on national television, namely The Tonight Show. But what he did, and this happens a lot, Houdini used to say no publicity is bad publicity. And this was certainly the case when it came to Uri Geller, because however hard Randi tried to expose Geller, it made him that much more famous and that much more popular, and even worse, it made him that much more sympathetic. Audiences did not say, "Oh, thank you, Randi, for exposing a lie." What they said was, "Poor Uri Geller, he's a likable guy," and they gravitated to him. So Randi really made Uri Geller a household name. In response to this failure, in 1976, Randi joined forces with Paul Kurtz, Isaac Asimov, Carl Sagan, Ray Hyman, and Martin Gardner to form the Committee for Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, also known as PSYCOP, who later published the Skeptical Inquirer. So as I say, to say that Randi is the father of modern skepticism is not too far off. It really isn't. In 2006, they changed its name to the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, CSI. He wrote that, and this is where I think you'll begin to understand my position. I am a deeply religious person. And one of the things one of the trends that I don't like in society right now is the trend toward condescension toward anyone of any religion whatsoever. I feel that our culture is looking down on us as believers and saying that we're credulous, saying that we are gullible, saying that in some cases that we are frauds. And I just don't appreciate that at all. So Randi, this is a quote. This is a quote from Randi. He wrote, "Compared to the Bible, The Wizard of Oz is more believable and much more fun." He also wrote, "A belief in a God is one of the most damaging things that infests humanity at this particular moment in history." Now, if you are a skeptic, or you are what I call a materialist believes only in the material. A materialist does not believe in God or spirits or anything else. All the materials can believe in is what is right in front of him or her. A materialist believes in this close-up mat, but a materialist does not believe in God. Well, Randi is a devoted materialist. He's a devoted skeptic. And so he takes this position that God is, the belief in God is a horrible infestation of humanity. And the problem, it wouldn't be so bad if skeptics just believe that. But skeptics believe that they're right and that something's wrong with you if you don't agree with them. And that's dangerous, folks. That's dangerous. If you don't know, that is dangerous. So that's where we are as a culture, and part of the reason we're there is because of skeptics. he accepted, as I mentioned before, he accepted a priori that there's nothing beyond the material. No religion, no paranormal, and certainly no psychic. We tend to find what we expect. We tend to see what we expect. And when you go into an investigation with a predetermined idea of what the investigation outcome will be, that's not a fair investigation, not by a long stretch. And magicians have been doing this for centuries. It began with the Mascleans in their investigation of the Davenports. It continued with Alexander. It continued with Houdini. And it continued through Randi and now through Penn and Teller. I don't object to their ideology. I don't. I realize that there are frauds, and that these frauds should be exposed. Fraud is evil. I agree. I don't agree that everything is fraud. I mean, if I held a dollar bill up to you and I said that the dollar bill is counterfeit, does that mean that every dollar bill is counterfeit? That's the logic of a skeptic. It just doesn't make sense to me, but that's what they do. Now let me share this with you as well. Randi said, and I'm quoting, Randi said, if you go out into a situation calling yourself a debunker, then it is as if you have prejudged the topic. Well, didn't he? It's not neutral or scientific, and it can turn people against you. And so I call myself an investigator. He knows he's a debunker, and everybody else knows he's a debunker. Everybody knows he has a preconceived idea, but he doesn't want him to think that. So he calls himself an investigator. So, skeptics today will often look back to Randi as the reason they're skeptics. Among them is Penn and Teller. Penn and Teller looked to Randi as their mentor and leader and guide. And it was Randi that inspired them. Penn said, and I quote, this is Penn Jillette, if not for Randi, there would not be a Penn and Teller as we are today. Outside of my family, no one is more important in my life. Randi is everything to me. In 2014, Part 2 Filmworks released a film called An Honest Liar, a feature film documentary on the life and work of Randi. I've seen it. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I recommend that you see it. Randi passed away, crossed over, as I like to say, because I do not believe in death of the soul. I believe the soul is eternal. That's why I use the phrase cross over. Because this, the body, is a jacket, a coat, a cloak that we put on and take off. That's my belief system. I think Randi is looking down on us today saying, oh boy, the religious people were right. But hey, that's just me. I will give you a little bit about me here. I could be classified as credulous. I could be classified as gullible. I could be. Because I choose to believe rather than not believe. I choose to be a person of faith rather than not. That's my predisposition. And as a result, I probably believe things that I shouldn't believe. I probably believe some things that aren't true. And I need people like Randi and I need people like Penn and Teller to help me out. I really do. But at the end of the day, I do think there's some validity and truth to religious belief in general. So that's where I stand. Anyway, Christopher, thank you so much for asking about, oh, I forgot to show you, conjuring. Conjuring is a history, it said under the subtitle, being a definitive history of the venerable arts of sorcery, prestidigitation, wizardry, deception, and chicanery, and of the mountebanks and scoundrels who have perpetrated these subterfuges on bewildering public, in short, magic. And there is this delightful little poem, if you will, on the first page. Conjuring is a demanding art, ruled by a muse of bizarre whimsy, one given to great generosity with some of her disciples and yet capable of cruel indifference with others. We who serve her accept her rules and recognize that she, of all those we aspire to please, she sees instantly through our every artifice and ruse. We would have no other mistress, and we serve her willingly. In so doing, we trust that we also serve you, our patrons. We hope to deserve the support and acclaim which we are awarded when we properly delight you. If you will, look upon us with understanding. Forgive our occasional errors and grant us your tolerance. And while I have your attention, may I ask you please to choose a card, any card. James Randi. So folks, I want to recommend this to you. Histories are almost always written with a predisposition and an ideological viewpoint that begs to be proved. Almost always. And this is no different. Randi has written this definitive history of magic from the point of view of a skeptic. So in the early days of magic, ancient people who went to temple and saw what Randi calls magic tricks were gullible and stupid. So that's the way it's presented. But let me show you some of the good stuff in here. Look at this picture of Houdini. Look at, here is a poster of Carter the Great. So some of the photography in here, some of the illustrations, and certainly the writing and scholarship that Randi brings to this book is just phenomenal. So I do listen. Randi was a great scholar. He was a great contributor to our art. He gave us this, and it is a fine history of magic. So I do recommend it to you. Christopher, thank you so much for asking for this. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Please comment down below. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great day.